Maria was an 18-year-old girl full of dreams. Ever since she was little, she had imagined what it would be like to study in England, a place she always saw as magical. The sound of people speaking English felt like music to her, but now, more than ever, that music had become a challenge. Sitting in the corner of her room, Maria held a letter of acceptance from a prestigious English university in one hand and a basic English book in the other. Her face showed a mix of excitement and worry. She had secured a scholarship to study abroad, but she knew the journey was far from over. "How am I going to learn English well enough in such a short time?" she whispered to herself. Her lack of fluency in the language wasn't just a practical barrier. It was something that shook her confidence. It felt like every word in English was a wall she had to climb. But deep down, Maria knew this journey was not only a chance to learn a new language, but also an opportunity to prove to herself that she could achieve her biggest dreams. Maria's excitement about studying abroad quickly turned into anxiety as she faced the reality of her situation. To keep her scholarship, she needed to achieve a high score on a language proficiency exam like IELTS or TOEFL. However, every time she looked at sample questions or practice tests, the words seemed like a foreign code she couldn't crack. One evening, she sat at her desk, trying to watch an English video without subtitles. It was a short clip about everyday conversations, but the words flew by so fast that she could barely catch a single sentence. Frustrated, she paused the video. "I'll never understand this," she sighed, dropping her head into her hands. The traditional methods she was using, grammar exercises, vocabulary lists, and textbooks, felt dull and overwhelming. They didn't seem to be helping her build the confidence she needed. Maria's frustration grew, and she started to doubt herself. "Maybe I'm just not good enough," she thought, looking at the acceptance letter on her desk. But despite her doubts, she wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. One day, while scrolling through her phone, Maria stumbled upon a video titled, "Learn English Through Stories, Easy and Fun." Intrigued, she clicked on it. The video featured a simple story narrated in clear, slow English. Each sentence was repeated, and the words appeared on the screen. At first, Maria thought, this is too basic. But as she listened, she began to pick out familiar words. "Dog, run, house," she whispered, repeating them aloud. A small smile crept onto her face. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time, she felt like she was actually understanding something. Later, Maria told her best friend Anna about the video. Anna, who was already fluent in English, suggested, "Why don't you try learning English by using stories and dialogues? It's more natural, and it'll be fun." Skeptical but curious, Maria decided to give it a try. She searched for more videos and audio clips featuring everyday conversations and simple stories. One video in particular stood out, a story about a student who overcame challenges to succeed. It felt oddly familiar, like it was speaking directly to her. For the first time, Maria felt hopeful. This wasn't about memorizing endless grammar rules or vocabulary lists. This was about understanding real-life situations and immersing herself in the language in a way that felt meaningful. Maria threw herself into the new method with determination and a spark of excitement she hadn't felt before. Every day, she dedicated time to watching short English stories, repeating sentences out loud, and jotting down new words in a notebook. At first, progress was slow. She often paused videos to look up words or replay a scene to mimic the pronunciation. But day by day, something remarkable started to happen. She began to recognize patterns. Phrases like, "How are you?" and "Can I help you?" no longer felt foreign, but familiar, even natural. To take her practice further, Maria started writing her own short stories in English. They were simple at first, just a few sentences about her day or imaginary adventures. One day, she wrote, "Maria is a student. She wants to study in England. She learns English every day." It was a small step, but for Maria, it felt like a giant leap. Maria also found an online group of English learners from around the world. They would meet weekly for casual conversations. Nervous at first, Maria hesitated to speak, but when she finally did, the group welcomed her warmly. Each small interaction boosted her confidence, and soon she was chatting about her dreams, her favorite foods, and even her funny struggles with the English language. Months passed, and Maria's progress was undeniable. Words and phrases that once felt impossible now rolled off her tongue with surprising ease. More importantly, her fear of speaking English had been replaced with a growing confidence. The day of the proficiency exam finally arrived. Maria stood outside the test center, clutching her pencil and registration paper tightly. Her heart raced, but she reminded herself of all the hard work she had put in. I've practiced. I've improved. I can do this, she thought, taking a deep breath. During the test, Maria felt a mix of nerves and focus. The listening section played a conversation about ordering food, something she had practiced countless times through her stories. When she reached the writing section, she recalled the short stories she had written and used similar sentence structures. Each part of the exam felt like a puzzle she was finally equipped to solve. Weeks later, Maria received her results. She hesitated for a moment before opening the email, her heart pounding. And there it was, the score she needed. Relief and joy washed over her as she realized her dream of studying abroad was no longer just a dream. It was her reality. Fast forward to a few months later. Maria stood in the bustling airport, holding her boarding pass and passport. Her suitcase was packed, and tucked inside was the notebook where she had written all her English practice stories. Looking around, she heard announcements in English and smiled. This time she understood every word. As she boarded the plane, Maria felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude. The journey to learn English had been challenging, but it had transformed her in ways she never expected. She realized that learning a language wasn't just about grammar or vocabulary. It was about connecting with a bigger world and unlocking her potential. Learning English doesn't have to be hard. With small steps, consistency, and a method that works for you, anything is possible. What's your dream? Start today.